Elevation. Big blunts, dope boys wanna smoke with me. Now we ride double limbs through the whole city. Niggas talking down, but they always feel me. A 9-figure nigga, all I wanna talk is business. I seen a big mouth get a closed casket. Self-made, took over the whole racket. A kilo after kilo, see who moved the most. 200 foot Yashimos. You can't be chasing money with the wrong approach. Commas only come close. I'm the for all ages. You shoot a nigga tough. Bitch boys running social media. Rich nigga naming Wikipedia. If I fuck her once, she wanna fuck me twice. All the real niggas click up, let's get rich tonight.
Only the real recognize real high. Give me something I can feel, so I know this real high. This pandemic infectious.
Dope boy excellence. Elevation. Big blunts, dope boys wanna smoke with me. Now we ride double limbs through the whole city. Niggas talking down, but they always feel me. A 9-figure nigga, all I wanna talk is business. I seen a big mouth get a closed casket. Self-made, took over the whole racket. A kilo after kilo, see who moved the most. 200 foot.
Hey guys, welcome back to the live stream. Thanks for joining me. This one wasn't planned. I just jumped on and we're gonna roll with it. So today I'm gonna take a look at the markets. We're gonna touch a little bit on CPI and what's coming up with that. We'll talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're gonna cover Solana and a few other pieces as well. So let's jump into it. How's everyone doing today? Let me know in the chat. All right. So I'll pull up my screen here. We'll take a look at things. There we go. All right. Let's see if I can pull up a little video here so that you guys can actually see me while I'm doing this. Let's try that. All right, there we go. You guys can see me now. All right, so taking a look at the charts, there's not a whole lot of movement on Bitcoin right now. We're still sitting around 37,000. So there's a little bit of activity on the chart, but for the most part, it's been sideways here, if you can see that. So I don't expect this to make any drastic moves up or down. I think it's going to keep ranging for a little bit, and then CPI a little bit later this week might affect this, unless there's some kind of a news event that triggers things. But for the most part, we've been ranging for the last 2 days or so after the pump, and overall things are looking pretty decent still. So ETH is moving a little bit. It's moving back towards 2100 again, which is good to see. I do think it's going to break up higher. As you can see on this little chart here, and actually I'll pull up this chart so you can see a little bit better. So ETH's been ranging as well. Typically when ETH moves, ETH does range sideways like this before it pops up, and more often than not, it always does pop up to another level, the next level. And I do think Ethereum could still run up to as much as 3,000. Yeah, it's not necessarily bought or oversold or anything right now, so there's nothing that that gives me any inclination otherwise that the rally couldn't continue for ETH off of the positive news. So that's it for Bitcoin and ETH. Let's pop into the alts here. So some alts are moving today. Nice to see a little bit of action there. So looks like a lot of things are kind of between 2 and 8-9%. You got Filecoin up 11%. You got a couple that have pulled back as well, but overall, there's still some nice movement there. IMX, ApeCoin, Lido. All right, let's move along. So I wanted to touch on the CPI. The report is due tomorrow, and most likely it's going to be softer than expected. That's what a lot of people are saying right now. That's kind of what's expected. And it is expected that because it is likely to be softer than expected inflation that's reported, stocks are likely going to go, and then, I mean, of course, crypto will likely get affected by that as well. It might be a nothing event and things might just continue ranging sideways, but based on the expectations, I don't think there's going to be a dump, and I do think it's probably a good likelihood that we're going to see some further upwards momentum into the later half of the week. So I'm just going to leave it there with CPI instead of digging into it for longer in a minute or two here, but that's what I think you should know at this point in time. So Bitcoin's RSI broke above 70. There's a lot of people that are talking, is this beginning in a bull run? It's been doing pretty close to the trend line, and it's been moving sideways with like negligible vertical movements, apart from the little pop last week. So based on the RSI, things are looking pretty good overall. There you go, you can see this chart gives you a little bit better idea here. So from here we could break further up, or there could be some ranging up and down for a few months before we break up. It's tough to say which one's going to happen. I mean, we could also break down, even though I do think it's rather unlikely at this point. So whether it's this first scenario here or the second scenario, I think it's likely going to be one of those two. I do think we're going to continue to run from here, maybe touch 40, pull back from 40, range for a while in the 30s, and then take another crack at it. So yeah, we'll have to keep watching this, obviously, like on a weekly basis from here until probably the end of December, and that'll give us a good inclination of where things will be going into the first few months of the year. Next up, so the Grayscale CEO has teased a Bitcoin ETF launch. There's the last live stream we did, we were talking a lot about the ETF news and how all of the ETFs could likely get approved all together, and that there is actually a window that is still open for the next few days for all of them to actually be approved. Grayscale is the one that is in like the most back and forth and talks with the SEC for things that need to get adjusted in order for theirs to go live. I think they might get the nod of approval, which will then approve everything else. I think they're even a little bit further along than BlackRock in terms of getting the SEC to approve something with all the adjustments based on feedback and whatnot. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this up to keep it top of mind. So November 17th is the deadline, and if it doesn't, for some reason, doesn't get approved by the 17th, then we're looking at early January. From my recollection, I believe it's the first half of January, like January 15th or something like that. And if all of them don't get approved by November 17th, they're probably all going to get approved like in that first couple weeks of January. That's the most likely outcomes. So moving along. So I just talked about this a little bit. So I'm not gonna scroll down on that one, but yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the CPI and the spot ETFs. That's both of those are probably the most important things to be watching, at least over the next couple of days. And I wanted to bring this up, especially after the ETH rally. So ETH fund inflows have hit a high on the ETF listing request. There was news about BlackRock listing for a spot ETH ETF, and likely there's going to be a lot more of those that get applied for by the other asset managers as well. The asset manager said the inflows indicated a distinct turnaround in investor sentiment, fueled by BlackRock's move to file for an ETH spot ETF last week. Digital asset funds saw 293 million in inflows last week alone, making the 7th consecutive week of inflows. Bitcoin products attracted 240 million. So it's interesting to see. There's blockchain equity ETFs also saw their highest inflows since July 2022 at 14 million. So I think some of that is not just ETH. It's probably Grayscale's other funds as well. I know there's a lot of interest that went into the Solana GBTC holding or vehicle last week as well off of Solana's run. So not that all of this is ETH necessarily, but nonetheless, sentiment has turned around and more money is beginning to trickle into the altcoin, so to speak, from institutional investors. So as long as this momentum keeps going, along with the ETFs hitting and us being in healthy ranges, it's all positive. In my opinion, probably for the majority of 2024, shy of maybe some ranging at the beginning, and maybe a little bit of movement in unexpected ways, I'll say, around the halving. Sometimes that can happen, but overall, 2024, it's expected that a lot of institutional money is going to come in, not just with ETFs, but in general, even into some of the other products like ETH and Solana based holdings. So moving along from that stuff. So Tether minted another $4 billion worth of USDT. So this is positive. This basically means that more money is coming into the space and they had to print more for the stable coins. So money is coming on the sidelines and it's going to gradually move its way into the markets, likely starting with Bitcoin and ETH, obviously. But nonetheless, it always tends to trickle down. So it'll start with Bitcoin and ETH, then that'll trickle down into the top 10, top 20 altcoins. It'll trickle down to top 50, top 100, and then you've got all the micro caps that start to run after that, almost like a cascading waterfall effect. So the fact that Tether just minted another $4 billion worth of USDT means more money is intending on going into the larger coins like Bitcoin and ETH and whatnot in the weeks and months ahead. So it's always good to see Tether printing more. And that was on Tron and Ethereum, it says here. But typically when things start to heat up, because of the gas fees on Ethereum, a lot of Tether does move around on Tron and some of the other networks, but I believe Tron is the next largest in terms of USDT moving during like bull markets typically compared to on East Chain. So Solana overtook Ethereum by active users after its 70% spike. So I just want to bring this up because we did talk about a little bit of Solana in the last video, and there's still a lot of attention on Solana, even though it's had quite a rally. So Solana hosted 356,000 plus unique users on Saturday, whereas ETH was 330,000. So it surpassed it by 10%. That's no joke. That's a lot of users on Solana. I think a lot of it is people that had money in ETH that then were moving into Solana. Some of it's probably FOMO coming off of the rally, but some of it is just getting in before prices explode to even higher levels. Even if there's a pullback from here in Solana, overall, like where it sits on the chart, it's still looking very healthy over like a longer term horizon. So for those that want to have Solana throughout this coming bull cycle, we're still very much in the accumulation zone, and a lot of this is likely people that had money sitting on ETH that started to move some over into Solana, so they're not missing out, or they're dollar cost averaging into their positions before the price is at higher levels. So Coinbase to launch Solana perpetual futures. That's also positive. I think that'll likely affect probably more so like institutional interest than anything, but nonetheless, the Solana futures on Coinbase is also bullish for Solana. And then I wanted to pull this up from Raoul. He's always got great macro takes. I always look at his analysis on what's going on, and he is what I would call a Solana bull, not necessarily a maxi, but definitely a bull. And so he says Sol broke out from its inverse head and shoulders last month and is now up 475% year to date. And looking at the chart below, you realize it's all still to play for. So I'm going to pull up his Substack here so we can look at this closer. So short term, Sol is overbought. RSI is 89, the highest since September of 2 years ago. And we are likely going to see some selling pressure soon. I do agree with that. It's up 240% in the last 60 days. So yeah, it's not really that surprising. But when you look at this chart here, you realize that even with the run up compared to where things have bottomed out in relation to the last cycle, that there's still so much to grow before we even hit all-time highs again. And Solana this cycle is likely going to outperform like significantly above its all-time highs, probably by a 3x, in my opinion, maybe even more. So just because there's been a rally doesn't mean that it's still not a good time to be buying Solana. And I think a lot of other people are realizing this as well. So, yeah, in my thoughts on where Solana sits right now, personally, I would wait for a bit of a pullback and then I would dollar cost average in. Or if I'm someone that wants some Solana, doesn't want to miss the train, I would start dollar cost averaging probably on a weekly basis. So that way you might catch a little bit of a pullback over the next few weeks if there is some pullback after this rally. But you're still kind of in the game and adding more to your bag week over week for subsequent rallies when it comes to Solana. The Grayscale product is trading at about 7 times the value of like market buying Solana as like a retail investor right now. So I would imagine that there's a decent amount of FOMO on the retail side as well. Other money is going to be coming into Solana as well, just based off of that, and that's into institutions. So yeah, I don't think you missed the boat on Solana by any means. And I do think, even though it's not necessarily my favorite layer one, in terms of layer one, Solana is the consumer chain. Now with FTX kind of behind it, Solana can move into this next chapter for it without being weighed down by that. And I think along with like the recent announcements with Firestarter and different tech that'll help with scalability, Solana is going to do very, very well, both in tech and user adoption and in price performance this cycle. So yeah, if you're looking to have 1 or 2 layer ones outside of like Ethereum, I think Solana is definitely one of the ones that you should be looking at. So, and you can see here altcoins versus ETH market cap. They're just starting to break out now. So altcoins like Solana are likely going to start breaking up in terms of performance. Not performance in market cap compared to ETH. So that means when price does move, it's going to move in these rallies. So moving along. So now I'm going to jump and talk about Cardano a little bit. So Cardano is the other layer one that I think is, in terms of tech, is really up there. I think it has the best tech personally of any of the layer ones, though it is a little bit of a boring chain compared to Solana or Polkadot or things of that nature, but nonetheless, still a very strong project. And usually when Cardano runs, it tends to be quite late in the cycle, or it just won't move at all for like months, and then out of nowhere it'll pop up a price level and go up by like 10-15 20 cents, sometimes even more like later in the cycle if it really rallies. But so it's kind of a sleeper. It's not something that you look to usually trade like on a daily or a weekly. It's just more of a buy and hold if you've got layer ones, like a handful of layer ones. But nonetheless, getting into the news. So Hoskinson, which is the former ETH co-founder that leads up Cardano, is the head of Cardano. They're going to support Kraken's venture into layer 2 scaling solutions, highlighting security and community benefits. So this is interesting. Basically, Cardano has shown interest in helping Kraken build their layer 2 and helping them scale. So this would be something akin to like Coinbase's base. Kraken's looking at building their own layer 2, and I think that using Cardano's tech, it would be very quick, very cheap, very secure. I think it. I hope they do end up doing a partnership on this. I don't use Kraken much anymore, but I have a decent amount in the past years at different moments, and I do like it as an exchange. It does still have a decent amount of users. And if they had a really solid layer 2 that was quick and cheap, and they onboarded, whether it's NFTs or other tech onto it that actually got users using it regularly, above and beyond just moving stuff around on like related to buys on the exchange, I do think it could get a decent user base, in my opinion, especially to put some marketing behind it. So yeah, we'll see if they end up building on Cardano or if they end up building off of like a layer 2 Ethereum, which is typically what most tend to do. But Cardano is like actively working on integrating into Polkadot and Ethereum and other things. It's all going to be interconnected to an extent with the bridges and whatnot. So yeah, it'd be cool to see Cardano do something with a large exchange on a project like this. Typically, they've been working on digital IDs and things overseas, more so in Africa, as well as like larger Fortune 500 stuff kind of behind the scenes. But it'd be cool to see Kraken and them team up. So I'll keep an eye on this, and if there's actually some further development, I'll talk about it in a future live stream. I don't want to spend too much more time here, but I'm going to move along to this. So RUNE did move quite significantly in price. So I just wanted to bring this up just because RUNE and THORChain, their volume is really starting to go up. And the thing that I like a lot about RUNE is how quick and easy it is to swap into so many different assets on so many different chains with very little very little friction in doing it, and it's very quick and easy to do. So for those of you that are looking on swapping cross-chain to BNB or Solana or Optimism or all these other chains, if you haven't already, try out THORChain and RUNE. And in terms of an investment, usually RUNE, if you hold it over a long period of time, you tend to do pretty good if you bought it during a bear market. So for those of you that are looking for kind of like a DEX play, this might be something you might want to scoop up a bag of RUNE, just kind of sit on that, or just start using the actual protocol first and get familiar with it and then decide if you want to invest in it. But it's not financial advice, of course, just something I've used before, and I thought it was worth bringing up to you guys. Yeah, so it's good to see RUNE moving. Go back to the charts here quickly. Yeah, so Bitcoin's just kind of hopping around. See what ETH's doing. Yeah, and ETH's kind of moving around too. Nothing all that crazy. All right. Well, I'm going to pop back over here so that way I'm just going to take a look at the chat here quick and see if there's anything. I got pretty into covering the news and just giving my my input on things. So I'm just going to check the chat here and see if there's anyone that's asked a question that I think is worth worth going over here for a moment. Bear with me, I'm getting better at this this live stream. This is my second one that I'm doing on here. Usually I was doing Zooms and other things before, so I promise that we'll get better the more and more I do them. And I'm getting more into a regular schedule with it. I think I'm going to start doing them every Monday and potentially one in the second half of each week as well. And then if there's unexpected news or other things that come up, I'll just do like emergency streams as that's happening as well. So let's take a look at the chat here. If there's anything in particular that you guys want me to cover, just let me know either in the comments below or in the chats as I do these. So, okay, looks like, oh, hey Cheryl, from the UK. 3,000 ETH is close to what it was 2 years ago. Yeah, yeah, it went over 3,000. It was about 4,500 close to the peak. So you're doing great. Oh, you guys are awesome. All right. So it doesn't look like there's anything crazy in the chat that I'm going to cover in terms of Q&A. So I'll give more notice on the next live stream that I do, so you guys can kind of prepare to be there ahead of time. Hey, March, good to see you. And yeah, we'll do some more Q&A sessions as we go through these, and yeah, I'll try to do 2 or 3 a week of these. So thank you for joining me, everybody. Appreciate your patience, and hopefully all this information is valuable to you. I try to give a mix of charts and news and idea of what to keep an eye on a weekly basis that could affect things. So again, if there's anything